On May 27, 1863, General Banks ordered a full frontal assault on the rebel stronghold of Port Hudson. Among the vanguard were the 1st and 3rd Regiments of the Louisiana Native Guard, numbering more than 1,000 soldiers. 6 times they charged across open terrain through a blinding hail of enemy fire. At the front of their ranks was Captain Andre Cajuns.
Cajuns led his troops against an impregnable fortress there at Port Hudson.
Louisiana Native Guard's assault at Port Hudson was heroic, but no more heroic than the others. The difference was it was the first time that black soldiers had been used on that scale, and it convinced Banks and began to convince other generals like Grant and Sherman that with proper training, black soldiers could be just as effective as the white soldiers.
Some called Andre Cajuns the first black hero of the Civil War, but the battle at Port Hudson would make heroes of many men.
Grant spares none of his men to occupy Jackson and put its military supplies and rail lines to the torch. Then he turns his army toward VICKSBURG. And at 10:30 that morning at Champion Hill, Grant starts the battle. Brigadier General Stephen Lee of Stevenson's division shifts his brigade to a hill owned by Sid Champion. By 11:30 a.m., the fighting on Champion Hill turns viciously hand to hand, with Stevenson's division eventually thrown back to the Jackson Road. Out of communication with Pemberton and believing Grant has already taken Edwards, Loring orders his vital 8,000-man division to Jackson and away from the defenses at VICKSBURG. Unaware of Loring's decision, Pemberton waits for him that night in the fortification at the Big Black River Bridge. Instead, he is met the next morning by McClernand's corps, which immediately attack and send the rebels running to the safety of VICKSBURG. The battles at Champion Hill and Big Black River cost Pemberton dearly: 25% of his army, 45 cannon, and the faith of his men. 30 years ago to the day, Pemberton had accepted a cadetship to West Point. As he rode back to VICKSBURG, he notes, and today that career is ended in disaster and disgrace.
Despite Union charges and relentless pounding from Farragut's ships, the men at Port Hudson held off an army 6 times its size for 48 days, the longest siege in U.S. military history. But on July 7th, word reached them that 150 miles upriver, the Confederate stronghold of VICKSBURG had fallen. It was senseless to continue. Nearly starved, the rebels surrendered Port Hudson 2 days later. After trying to kill each other for 6 weeks, the soldiers now came out of their trenches, laughing and weeping. Men in both blue and gray stood together on the battlefield, shook hands, and celebrated the end of the hellish siege.